Hey everybody, Coldon here with another VOX Immortalis commentary guide. This video is for Heroic Alakir in Throne of the Four Winds, and of course this is 10-man. So the heroic version of this fight is fairly challenging compared to normal, but only in the first phase for the most part. This fight gets progressively easier as the fight goes on, which is good for practicing, I guess. But it's sort of strange because this first section is much more difficult than any other part of the fight, which you'll see. So the main difference in Heroic that makes it challenging is the lightning cone attack, which you see here is happening quite a bit. Instead of just casting singly and disappearing, it persists for quite a while, meaning that damage just constantly ticks every second on whoever is in the cone. And if two people are within about 15 or 20 yards of each other in the cone, they will chain that damage together, basically doubling it for every person. So this can be pretty challenging to heal, especially if the cones stack up on each other. Since they randomly pick a target to aim toward, they can overlap depending on where people are located. So ideally you want everyone to spread out so that they're separated by those sort of spade shapes on the ground there. And that will prevent one cone on one target from hitting another section. In some cases, you'll still have to stack people up. So what we do is only stack up two people where there's a healer. So I was stacked with our shaman there. And generally with cooldowns to mitigate damage, you can heal through that. But if you get a double stack on two people, then it's pretty much guaranteed that it's not going to be healable. So one person will need to run out of the cone, which I did at the very start of the fight, pretty much. But if you have mirror broken images or other personal cooldowns, and you get double lightning, then try to use those. Otherwise, keep position stationary. So if you're a single spot by yourself and you get a lightning cone on you, as long as the healer's in range of you, you just stay there and they can heal through it pretty easily. So the first phase ends at 80%, just like a normal. So it's pretty short, but it will take the most practice by far. So you can see here we move to the south just to gather up. And this is kind of where the rest of the raid stacks up, with the exception of our DPS Death Knight. So he takes the job of aggroing the stormlings, and the reason for this is he pulls them off to the side so that their AE damage does not hit the raid. On Heroic, that AE damage with the debuff from Acid Rain is very deadly. So the faster that those can be pulled away from the raid, the better. And sometimes you'll even see people sidestepping away from one that's spawning near us, just to make sure it doesn't tick on us any more than it has to. So our Death Knight's doing a great job of picking those up and holding aggro and DPS them down, but he doesn't have enough damage to solo them. So in our case, we have our Arcane Mage helping him out. So basically the Mage will attack all of them until they're around 30% or so, and then he'll leave it alone. And this way, the Death Knight can manage the stack on Alakir over Mumble. So when the stack gets low, he'll call for the mage to help him kill whichever stormling is the lowest health, and they'll reapply the stack and just continue this process. So the both of them do a really great job on that, and it's actually pretty impressive because we haven't seen the second phase very often. So they learned it really quickly. But as I mentioned, yeah, the damage is nigh unhealable if it's hitting the raid from a stormling. But on a single person, even a non-tank spec, it's fairly trivial to keep them up. So as this phase progresses, obviously Acid Rain is going to be pretty damaging. And so you can see once we get around 40%, we start using cooldowns, tranquilities. If you have like Discipline Priest raid cooldown, that helps. DG, Warrior Shout. Unfortunately, Aura Mastery doesn't work since it's a nature damage, but any of those things. And then personal cooldowns, health stones, whatever you've got. And kind of blow through this last few seconds of this phase before the damage gets overwhelming. The key, obviously, is to keep that feedback stack on Alakir climbing up. So it really comes down to the team that's managing the stormlings. And again, they're doing really well on that. So I think we get to the 10th stack and then we phase around there. Yeah, it's happening right here actually. So that last stormling will die just as he's hitting 25. So as I mentioned, first phase is the hard part, then second phase is easier, and finally the third phase is relatively a joke. I say relatively because, as I mentioned, we do pretty terrible on it, as you'll see. And this was our first kill, but believe it or not, this is actually the first time we've ever been in this third phase on Heroic. So I guess that sort of goes to show how simple it is. Even if you screw up horribly, you can still finish the fight. So we have an extra stormling, so our tank grabs him, and I think our mage goes link dead there, and a bunch of people die, and it's just terrible. But because this is pretty much just like the normal version, just everything hits a little harder, you can survive for a long, long time on this phase. So I actually speed up the video in a moment here because it gets kind of boring. The only actual difference on Heroic, other than things hitting harder, is that the AE from the lightning rod, slightly larger radius, and of course it does more damage. Enough that healers will need to make sure they hot the lightning rod target if possible, or just at least focus them so that when the burst knocks people back, the damage from the burst is not enough to kill them from lightning rod. And yeah, so we're in double speed here just to speed through this. So yeah, you can see we have 5 people dead pretty early, and even still, we're able to last like another 3 minutes and finish them off, just because there's just not a lot to do. So our basic movement strategy, you probably are used to it on normal, so there's nothing different here as far as the timing. But what we do is move to the back of Alikir at the top of his head, all the way at the ceiling at the start of the phase. And then we move down after the cloud, down after that cloud, and then after the third one we move all the way to the bottom, just above the cloud at the bottom, kind of below his cloak there. And then we move up after cloud, and then all the way to the top. And this process repeats. So basically you just move, every 3 clouds you move to the opposite side. And this gives you plenty of room, and the clouds despawn on the far side before you move down to them. So you can do this infinitely as long as you have time left on the Berserk and enough healing, of course. And we nearly test that. So again, this, I can't stress how weird it is for this phase to be part of this encounter. Obviously it's balanced and reversed that you normally would see, but whatever, it works. So really just focus on practicing that first phase and handling lightning, keep getting your positions right. Use anything you can to mitigate your damage, and as you progress through the fight you should be able to practice and get these last phases down. Good luck, thanks for watching.